Well, good morning. This is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. Really glad you could join me today out here in the vegetable garden. Well, the Lord has provided a beautiful day here in Pennsylvania, Zone 6. We're now the first week of July. In fact, it's going to be in the 90s today. We're going through a heat wave, but my oh my, the plants are loving this heat. You know, the tomatoes, the peppers, the melons, they love warm feet, and so they're just really taking off today out here in the garden and the weeks to come. Well, anyhow, today's title of my video is called Warning, Do Not Prune Your Cherry Tomatoes. So thanks for joining me today out here in the vegetable garden. So you may be wondering, why am I giving a warning? Is it a life and death situation? Of course not. Now, I've learned from experience, you know, as I often share, that gardening is a big learning curve full of trials and errors. And sure, there are certain tomatoes that I do prune, you know, like your supersonic tomatoes, your big boy tomatoes. A lot of the ones that can get up to 16 ounces or more, they're really heavy tomatoes. So I basically do grow them up one central leader or stem. But your cherry tomatoes, I've learned over the years not to prune them. Now I have 7 plants that I have growing out there, 7 sun gold cherry tomato plants out in my garden. And of course the cherry tomatoes, I've grown your sweet million tomatoes. I've also grown the yellow pear tomatoes. I've done taste test comparison videos on the sun gold cherry tomato versus the sweet million or the yellow pear tomato. I've done videos about that taste test comparison, and to me the sun gold cherry tomato knocks all the other ones out of the park when it comes to flavor. But what I've learned over the years is to just, on my trellises, I have mine growing up a couple of my cattle panel trellises. Also on one of my wooden trellises. I'll take you over there and show them to you. But what I'll do is I'll maybe start with 1 or 2 leaders or stems, and then to get them up off a couple feet off the ground, and then after that I'll just start tying the stems and the leaders to my cattle panel trellises and just let them go wild, let them do their own thing, and you'll be amazed at how much production you'll get out of your tomatoes by just not pruning them. Now, your bush type tomatoes or your determinate tomatoes, I use my heavy duty metal cages out there. Those you don't prune at all, you just let them do their own thing as well. But I'm talking about your indeterminate cherry type tomatoes. They're roughly around 1 inch or more in diameter. But anyhow, why don't we go over to my garden structure and I'll show you where I have one plant growing, and then I'll take you over to my cattle panel trellis. So follow me along. I ended up buying my sun gold cherry tomato plants from Ray's Nursery over there in Telford, PA. They were like $1.25 a piece. And so it's just amazing how much fruit or produce you can get from one plant. In fact, last year I froze 800 of my sun gold cherry tomatoes. I take a 1-gallon heavy duty freezer bag, and one bag holds around 200 of those yellow tomatoes, and I froze 4 bags. We use them in our recipes all winter long, and I'm hoping to maybe freeze about 1,000 this year because I ran a little short near the end. And so what I have here is I started out with 1 leader, 1 stem, and then at about 3 feet I have there's another branch that's developing. And then up here around 4 feet, I have 2 branches developing here, one on the left and one on the right. And so what I'm doing here on this particular situation is allowing the single stem or leader to grow up about 3 feet. And then from there, I'm going to let it branch off from here, because this will grow up and over the top and even down the side of my arbor here. And so it can get a good 12 feet or more. And so what you want to do is I just use my jute twine to tie off all my branches. If you can get them locally from a hardware store or something, it's pretty cheap, and you know, it's biodegradable, and so I really like using that. I also grow my tomatoes and all my plants in my composted leaf mulch that's amended with topsoil, and I amend it with topsoil because it adds additional minerals to the soil. I end up buying that locally from Barnside Compost. I get 5 yards per year. And so what I'm doing to support this is I call it the rope and twist method. I ended up hanging the rope from a hook up top, and then I tie it around the base of the plant, and then I just simply twist it up around the plant as it grows, and it's just a really easy way to help support these indeterminate tomato plants. Let's take a closer look. And so why don't we take a walk over to one of my cattle panel trellises. I have 2 cattle panel trellises here in the garden. And like I said, I'm growing a total of 7 of my sun gold cherry tomato plants. So let's head over there. You can also see that my beautiful canna lilies are starting to bloom here. So let's go up to the second cattle panel trellis. I just love having these cattle panel trellises in the garden. They're beautiful to look at, and they'll last a lifetime. I did a video a couple years ago showing how you can install one of these, a step-by-step video taking you through the whole process. It was like how you could build one for under $45. I ended up buying these from Tractor Supply, and they're just really great to grow a lot of your vegetables up. But as you can see, I have a lot of these stems or leaders starting to take off in different directions. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'll tie these using my jute twine to the cattle panel trellis. You got one hanging under here, got another one over here, and even when I first grew these, I have about 2 leaders already about a foot high taken off from the main stem. Again, and the suckers, you don't obviously prune on these because they'll develop into a branch which will later produce more tomatoes. You also want to make sure you plant these where they'll have a good 6-8 hours of sunlight, because that way they'll reach full production. My wife and I have been able to come out, and we're picking a few sun gold cherry tomatoes off the lower branches, but in another week or so these are going to really ripen, so we're looking forward to having these in my salad. I have a big salad every night for dinner, and I put everything in it but the kitchen sink. And these sun gold cherry tomatoes, I'm really looking forward to having these in our salad. Well, anyhow, I hope this video was able to give you some ideas on why not to prune your sun gold cherry tomatoes or your cherry tomatoes in general, because again, the harvest will be 5 to 10-fold by just letting them go wild. Well, anyhow, if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And you can also visit us at PlantSmartLiving.com, and there you can learn more about gardening and also how you can reclaim and restore your health by adopting a whole food, plant-based, vegan lifestyle. Well, anyhow, it's really heating up here out in the garden. I'm starting to sweat already. Tomorrow's 4th of July, so we're looking forward to spending time with some friends and family and loved ones. Well, anyhow, I hope you have a wonderful day and a bountiful garden season. So until next time, this is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred.